In this video, we will be learning how to multiply numbers with up to 4 digits by another 2-digit whole number. We will be using the formal written method of long multiplication to do this. For this activity, we are going to be learning the formal written method of long multiplication. So we will work through using the formal written method, and then we're going to apply that to finding the smallest product. For another activity, we have a challenge. Please only take the challenge when you are really confident with the first activity. Okay, so the first activity on your worksheet is simply practicing the skill of multiplying a 4-digit number by a 2-digit whole number. Before we have a go at doing the 4 calculations on your worksheet, let's have a look at one together which isn't on there. Let's take the calculation 4,283 by 25. Now I've colour coded our 25 so that we can clearly see the difference between the 2 in the tens column and the 5 in the ones column. If you're familiar with using the grid method, it's similar to the grid method because we're partitioning our 25, but we're not partitioning the 4,283. If you are confident with the grid method, it's worth noting that this won't get counted for a method mark in your SATs paper. So it is very important that you do learn this method. So the first thing we're going to do is multiply our 4-digit number by the 5. So in our first line, we'll essentially be doing this. So let's start with the 3. So we're going to do 3 by 5, which is 15. Now we're going to place our 5 in that ones column, and we're going to carry our 1, our 10 from the 15, like so. Some people like to write it above like this. It doesn't really matter where you put your 1 as long as you're consistent and you remember to carry the number over. Now another tip I like to do is just to put a tick above it, just so you can keep track of which numbers you've calculated. This isn't something that you need to do, but it's something I like to do, just so you can keep track when you're multiplying lots of digits. So now we're going to move on to the 8 in 4,283 by 5, which is 40. Remembering to add on our 1 that we've carried, so we've now got 41. Again, I'm going to make sure that I carry over my 4 from the 40, like so. And I'm going to tick the 8 so that I know that I have already calculated that. My next calculation is 2 by 5, which is 10, and I'm going to add my 4, so I have 14, remembering to carry the 1 and to tick it off. And now I have 4 by 5, which is 20, plus my 1 is 21. So I have my first line of calculation, which is 4,283 by 5, which is equal to 21,415. You do not need to write your calculation to the side as I am. This is just for demonstration purposes. I'm just going to tick my 4 so I remember I've done that. It is also worth noting that when you are using this method in your SATs paper, that you should write your answers underneath as we're doing here. Sometimes you can make a mistake and then people like to carry their working on out elsewhere on the page. This will lose you a method mark. So you must make sure that when you write your method, you continue it in this fashion, going underneath. You've got your row of 4,283 by 5, and then we're going to do our next row 4,283 by 20, and then your final row will be totaling these 2 rows. Okay, let's move on to our next row where we're multiplying by 20. So because we're multiplying by 20 rather than 2, we're going to place a placeholder in. Now we can just multiply by 2 because that placeholder will automatically ensure that all of our numbers have actually been multiplied by 20. Okay, so we're going to start with 3 by 2, which is 6, and I'm going to place it here. Please make sure that all your digits are lined up. I'm going to tick it off. Now we're doing 8 by 2, which is 16. 6, and carry my 1. And tick it off. 2 by 2, which is 4, add my 1 is 5, tick it off. 4 by 2, which is 8. Okay, so I have this line of calculations, which is 85,660. So these are the kind of things you'd get if you were doing the grid method and partitioning it, but this is a quicker method. And it is important that you learn this method. There is no reason why you can't use your grid method alongside using this method to help you check them, but please practice this as much as you can. Once you've got your 2 lines in, you need to add them up. So we have 5 plus 0, we have 1 plus 6, 4 plus 6, which is my 10, so again I need to do some carrying. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus the 1 I've carried over is 7, and then I've got 2 plus 8, which is 10. So my final answer, which I would need to make sure I put in the answer box if there is one, is 107,075. Okay, let's try another question now. Let's try another calculation. Again, I've colour coded my 2-digit whole number. I have 3,564 by 57. So we're first going to start with multiplying our 4-digit number by the 7. Let's begin. We have 4 by 7, which is 28. My 8 goes there. My 2 I will carry over, and I'm going to tick my 4. Next, 6 by 7, 42, plus my 2, 44. Carry my 4 and tick. 5 by 7 is 35. Add my 4 is 39. Carrying my 3 and ticking off to keep track. Finally, 3 by 7, which is 21, plus my 3 is 24. So I have my first line. So this calculation is 24,948. Remember, you do not need to do this calculating to the right. This is just so I can demonstrate to you what is happening when we multiply each row in this formal method. I'm going to go down to my second row now. Remember that I need to put in a placeholder. Some people like to actually draw the 3 answer rows in and then place your placeholder in before they've even done calculating. This might help you if you forget to put that in. It's very easy to forget putting that 0 in, especially when our first answer is a multiple of 10, as this is here. So if we do 4 by 5, we have 20. So I put in a 0 here and carrying my 2. Now that 0 and the 20, if you'd forgotten to put your placeholder in, when you're checking back, it can be very easy to not spot that you've forgotten the placeholder. So if that happens to you when you're practicing and you notice you keep doing that, it might be an idea to get in the habit of putting the placeholder in at the beginning. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to tick this so that I know I've used that 4 twice now. So I'm on to 6 by 5, which is 30. Remembering to add on the 2 is 32. 5 by 5 is 25. Add my 3 is 28. Tick it off. 3 by 5 is 15. Add my 2 is 17. So 3,564 times 50 is 178,200. And we're now going to add them up. So this is why it's important to have your digits very carefully aligned so we don't get muddled up. 8 plus 0 is 8. 4 plus 0 is 4. 9 plus 2 is 11. Carry the 1. 4 plus 8 is 12. Add my 1 is 13. Carry my 1. 2 plus 7 is 9. Add my 1 is 10. Carry my 1. And then 1 plus the carried 1 is 2. So my answer is 203,148. Okay, if you're feeling confident, have a go at the 4 questions on your worksheet. There's no reason why you can't keep practicing. You can write yourself your own questions very easily and check them over with a calculator, or check them with grid method or another method that you may be using for confidence. But it is very important that you crack this method, as this is the formal written method of long multiplication. And if you do make an error somewhere in your calculating but you have a correct method, you may just pick up a point. So in this second activity, it's again a chance just to practice these skills. So in each question, you have 3 possible calculations. You're being asked to circle the calculation which produces the smallest answer. So put quite simply, you need to calculate each of the 3 calculations, and then once you've found the one which has the smallest answer, put a circle around it. Now, I'd encourage you to look at them and make a prediction, have a think about which one you think is going to produce the smallest answer, really think about why. That's all going to test your understanding and your ability to articulate what you know about maths, what you know about place value. But don't just circle the one that you think is going to have the smallest answer, actually prove it as well. There's nothing wrong with making a prediction, but it's really important that you then follow through and prove it. Now, you may feel confident enough to have a go at this yourself. If you do, go ahead, you can skip this part of the video. If you'd like to do the first one with me, you can do it alongside me in real time, or you can pause as you go. Okay, so I'm going to do the first question, question 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to write out each of the 3 calculations, and then now I'm going to have a go. So I'm going to start with the first one. We've got 9 times 3, which is 27. I'm going to carry my 2, and I'm going to tick off my 9 so that I can keep track of what I'm doing. I'm actually going to put in my zeros now as well. I did suggest that earlier, that it's something you could do. You don't have to do it. You may be very good at remembering to do that, but it could be that this helps you so that you don't make a mistake of forgetting to add it in. Okay, so let's go back. We've done our 9 times 3. We're now on 7 times 3, which is 21, plus my 2 is 23. Remembering to carry and tick. 1 times 3 is 3, plus my 2 is 5, and tick. And 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, I've already put my placeholder in. I'm now going to go to 9 times 9, which is 81. And tick. I know I've now used that twice. It is quite important. Those ticks do help you when you get to that second row, because your answers aren't going underneath the digit you're calculating by. So my 81 hasn't gone underneath my 9. It's gone underneath my 7, because I'm actually multiplying by 90, not 9. And that's where some confusion can happen. So if you find when you're doing your calculations that you make an error with that second row, do put that placeholder in. Another top tip with your method mark, if you make any errors with your answer, the examiners will always look to give you a method mark. Even if you've calculated everything correctly, if you forget to put that placeholder in, you will not get a mark. So that may be another reason why it's quite a good idea to put that placeholder in at the beginning. Okay, so I have done my 9 times 9. I know that because I've ticked it twice. So 7 times 9 is 63. Plus my 8 is 71. 1 times 9 is 9. Plus my 7 is 16. 2 times 9 is 18. Plus my 1 is 19. Okay. Often forget to tick that last number. Okay, so now we're just going to add up. 7 plus 0 is 7. 3 plus 1 is 4, 5 plus 1 is 6, 6 plus 6 is 12, 9 plus 1 is 10, and 1 plus my carried 1 is 2. So I like to count in 3 from the end of my answer and put my comma in, because then that helps me to recognise that that's 202,647. Okay, I'm going to go on to my second calculation now. My placeholder's already in. So 8 times 5 is 40. 6 times 5 is 30. Add my 4. And I'm ticking off. 2 times 5 is 10. Add my 3 is 13. And tick. 3 times 5 is 15. Add my 1 is 16. And I'm going to remember to tick now. I've got my placeholder in, so when I'm multiplying by 6, I'm actually multiplying by 60. I've got 8 by 6, which is 48. 6 by 6, which is 36, plus my 4 is 40. Tick it off. 2 times 6 is 12, plus my 4 is 16. Tick it off. 3 times 6 is 18, plus my 1 is 19. And I am now ready to add up. 0, 4 plus 8 is 12, 3 plus my carried 1 is 4, 6 plus 6 is 12, 1 plus 9 is 10, plus my carried 1 is 11, and 1 plus my carried 1 is 2. So I'm going to count in 3 from the end, put my comma in, and I've got 212,420. So far, my first calculation is the smallest. So what do you think about the final one? Do you think that's going to be smaller or larger than the first calculation? We've got a much larger digit in the thousands, but we're multiplying it by a 2-digit number with a much smaller tens number. So have you made a prediction? Can you say why you think it may be larger or smaller? Okay, now let's test it out. 0 by 9 is 0. 1 by 9 is 9. 3 by 9, oh, I'm not ticking off. 3 by 9 is 27. Carry my 2, tick it off. 9 by 9 is 81, plus my 2, 83, and tick off. Okay, I've already got my placeholder in, so I can now multiply straight away by my 3. 0 by 3 is 0. Again, this is one of those calculations that you could mistakenly leave that place value because of the first calculation you're doing produces a 0. It's often then easy to overlook if you've forgotten that place value, that placeholder. Okay, so I've done that. I can tick it off. I've calculated with that 0 twice. 1 by 3 is 3. Let's tick it off. 3 by 3 is 9. Let's tick it off. 9 by 3 is 27. Okay, we're ready to add up. 0, 9, 10. 3 plus 9 is 12, plus my 1 is 13. 8 plus 7 is 15, plus my 1 is 16. 2 plus my carried 1 is 3. I'm going to put my comma in. So my answer to that was 363,090. Did it produce the answer you thought it would? Okay, so our smallest calculation is this. So on your worksheet, you would circle that calculation. Okay, have a go at the other calculations on your worksheet now. Our challenge activity should only really be attempted once you're really confident with mastering that 4-digit by 2-digit calculation. But please only have a go at this once you're really secure with the method of multiplying 4 digits by a 2-digit whole number. Okay, let's have a go at doing one of these activities, but using a different example to ones that are on your worksheet. I'm going to show you a good method of how to solve this, how to approach it. So you're going to need to use a bit of trial and improvement here. What we can see is that 6,435 multiplied by something is going to produce some of these workings out. So we're going to have to use what we know. So if we look at this first, if we were calculating this calculation with the digits there, we would be doing this mystery digit first. We would be doing 5 by something first. Okay, that's what that first row is. So we know that the multiple of 5 is going to end in a answer with a 0. So what might be a good idea is to list your multiples of 5. So I'm going to write down the multiples of 5. I'm only going to go up until 9 lots of 5 because I can only fit 1 digit in that box. So it can only be a possible of 1 to 9. Okay, the next thing is I can cross out any of the multiples that are ending in 5 because I need an answer that ends in 0. So let's just work through this systematically now. Let's start with 2 times 5, which is 10. Let's start with this one. So if I put that in there and I now carried that calculation out, I would have 5 times 2 is 10. I would write my 0 in, which is already there, and I would need to put my 1 in, which I'm carrying. As you can see, I've put that on the screen there. Now I would be doing 3 times 2, which is 6, and I would add that 1, and I would need to write 7 in. So I can already see that that doesn't work. Okay, so let's rub that out, and we can also say that that doesn't work. Okay, let's now try 4 times 5 then, which is 20. Let's give it a go. So 5 times 4 is 20. I've got my 0 in. I'm going to carry my 2. Let's move on to 3 times 4. I'm going to tick it at the top because that's what we were doing earlier. 3 times 4 is 12. If I add my carried 2, I'd have 14. So that does work at the moment. I'm going to tick that off. 4 times 4 is 16. If I add my 1, that would be 17. Let's tick that off. Now we're on to 6 times 4, which is 24. If I add my carried 1, it would be 25. So far that does work. Okay, so now we need to figure out what our second digit is. So again, we're starting with multiplying whatever this digit is by 5. So again, we're looking at multiples of 5. If we go down to our second row here, you'll remember that this is my placeholder. So this is nothing to do with any calculations. That's my placeholder. My 5 times my mystery number will, however, end in a 0. So again, we're looking at only the multiples of 5 that end in a 0. Let's start systematically from the beginning. So we'll start with 2. Let's see what happens if we were to put a 2 here. So we would do put our placeholder in. Then we would do 5 times 2 is 10. So we've got a 0 and I would carry my 1. Then I would do 3. I'm going to tick it off. Then I would do 3 times 2 is 6, plus my 1 is a 7. That actually works, so I'm going to tick that off. Now let's try 4 times 2 is 8. So far, so good. And finally, I forgot to tick my 6 earlier. 6 times 2, which is 12, and that works as well. Okay, so now we're going to add the 2 rows up. 0 and 0 is 0. 4 and 0 is 4, 7 and 7 is 14, 5 and 8 is 13, plus my 1 that I've carried over is 14, 2 and 2 is 4, plus my 1 is 5. So there we have it. We filled in all the missing boxes. Now the last thing you could do is to check that 6,435 multiplied by 24 equals 154,440. You could use a calculator, or you could have a go at doing the long multiplication method again. So give the problems on your worksheet a go. Remember to think about how the method works. Remember to make a list of possibilities, so make a list of the multiples. And just work through systematically and be patient. This will really test your deepened understanding of this method. Good luck. Well done. You've completed the section on multiplying 4-digit numbers by 2-digit whole numbers using the formal written method of long multiplication. Once you have practiced this skill and you're feeling really confident that you can be accurate, have a go at the past SATs questions. Of course, this type of question will definitely appear in your arithmetic paper, but it will probably also appear in one of the other two papers where it will be disguised in a variety of different formats. So have a go at the past SATs questions and see if you're able to recognise when and how to apply the skills you've learnt during this session. Good luck!